welcome to God Stories Radio Session 8. I'm Fritz.
I'm Mike.
And we're here on a very special edition Monday night, right after Real Men.
Couldn't be any better.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so excited. We always talk about Real Men, the night after, because we're normally taping the show on Tuesdays.
We're only half an hour away from it.
My goodness. I mean, just coming off Real Men, we may have to start a trend. That's amazing.
We'll see how it comes.
Oh, my gosh. Getting to listen to the testimonies and the small groups. As John said tonight, I think we're involved in a movement. We're
Very
starting to
much so.
see a movement of men that are standing up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a very special guest in the kitchen tonight, hence the special Monday night edition. And he's Mike, is his name. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's our pleasure. And Mike is a small groups teacher for Real Men and also is leading up the Every Man's Battle I spoke about briefly on the last podcast. I've been after Mike. I know he's really busy. I really appreciate you stopping by tonight and telling us a little bit about your testimony, because I know Every Man's Battle, not everybody may be familiar with the book, but I know everybody's familiar with the battle and whatnot. And I know it's a pretty sensitive subject. I have seen a lot of men that are starting to come forward, and I guess we're starting to educate the men that they're in a serious battle.
Right. And it still all comes down to talking about it, is the healing part of it.
That's right. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thanks again for coming, man. We're so excited.
No problem. I appreciate it. First of all, facilitator would be the word. I'm definitely not a Every Man's Battle leader. I have read the book, and it has changed my life and my marriage and the way I live my life. So I figure the best thing we can do with that is to make sure other men see it, understand it, able to go through it, are able to talk about it, and one of the steps in doing that is removing the hidden part of it, which all of us tend to do, to hide things and to put it in the closet with all the things that we don't want to talk about. And as we drag it out and we talk about the hidden side of it and bring it out and be able to learn from each other and be able to talk about the battle, the plan that we each have to win the battle, and what it means to actually be in that battle versus living in a world that is, simply put, just evil when it comes to this stuff. I mean, if you don't know you're in a battle, you already lost this, and it's so important for our families, our marriages, the livelihood of our children. The only way we can get this on the right track is to make sure that we grab a hold of it and do everything we can to be as clean to win this battle. So a little bit about what got me there. About 4.5 years ago, no relationship with Christ. Grew up near church, in terms of my folks, but it wasn't anything I grabbed a hold of. So 4.5 years ago, a couple of things came to a head, and my path at that point was definitely towards destruction. At that point, I'd been married, second marriage. So, I was already in the statistics of failed marriages, and I was well on my way to failing a second marriage, all due to me. But my path had pride, power, idolatry of sports, working out, friends. You name it, I put everything above my wife and family. And it's kind of it's kind of sad, because when you look back on it, wow, if I could have got this sooner, I know I could have really influenced even my children in different ways. While I am now, it'd be nice to have some more time on that. But those paths were the ones that were obvious, and anyone could probably have pointed those out. But the hidden one for me was sexual immorality. Personally, it was adultery and addiction to pornography. It was all hidden, and that one almost destroyed me and my marriage. And I would have told you, because there was no relationship with God, that the marriage was over at that point, since when this was all unhidden. My wife had every reason in the world to kick me to the curb, and I just assumed that was going to happen. But, God has a funny way of answering prayers. And my wife had been praying, has a relationship with God, and had one, and been praying for me and our marriage for years, not even knowing what she was praying for. She knew that she was praying for us and for whatever had to happen, but she didn't know what it was. She didn't know anything was going on behind the scenes like this. So she had been reading it, reading the Bible daily, praying. This is well over 5 years at the time when this all came crashing down, and she prayed for the change, and again, not knowing what it was that she was praying for, and actually, probably not sure that if somebody would have told her, yeah, you need to pray for these two things, she probably wouldn't have known that, and that's where God really, just He knows what the prayers are for, whether you do or not, and it's awesome to see Him work. God used His word and my wife's faithfulness to prepare her for my brokenness. We were at the counselor's office, and this was all Christian counselor, and this has all come to a head. It was all, as far as I thought over, and he asked, he had us separated. He asked us individually, what do we want from this? And when he brought us back together, he said again to me, what do you want from this? And I said, I just want to be clean, and I probably assumed at that point what clean meant to me was, I really don't want this stuff, but I also probably don't want the marriage either, with no relationship with God and not understanding all that. And, and what's another failed marriage when you already have one? I didn't understand at the time when I said I want to be clean that God had a different plan for clean. And, it reminds me of Psalm 51:10, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Or 51:2, wash me thoroughly through my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. Mm-hmm. And I think He took that, I want to be clean, and everything at that moment pretty much changed when the therapist turned to my wife and said, what do you want from this? Instead of kicking me to the curb, she put her hand on my shoulder and began to speak to me for 20 minutes in a way that neither of us could really tell you what was said at that moment, but I can tell you when you look over to the therapist and his chin's on the ground, what she was saying and how she was saying it, and the forgiveness, what God wants from us, wants from me, and her saying she wants to give this a chance, did change me. And that's the moment I looked to 4.5 years ago as when I was saved. And that changed everything at that moment. I know at that point I was dirty, and then I was clean. I was a hypocrite, a phony, a fake. I mean, I was a poser, but then I was God-fearing and loving. It was just all right there. I was full of pride and selfishness, self-centered. I became humble. I'm still working on the humble. I think that's something I always have to work on.
Oh, yeah. And God helps you do that.
Definitely.
Do it for you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to put others first now instead of always have putting myself first. And I could have justified it so many ways of why I put myself first. I grew up with nothing. I deserve this. I work hard. Blah, blah. You get justifications all day long, and Satan has a great way of teaching those to you and showing those to you.
Yes, he does.
So instead of it being all about me and me and me, I really turned around. It was all about God, my wife, and my family. So I, don't live for me. I live for them. And I really have to credit from that point on a couple of things that really helped us. And one of them is Every Man's Battle, and the other one is Two Becoming One, a marriage, biblical marriage class that Real Life also is will allow couples to take. And it's not just Real Life. It's a number of churches in the area, as well as North Carolina is where they're based, actually. But Every Man's Battle was a personal one that 2 weeks in of being saved, a man at our prior church gave to me. He had no idea what my past was, but yet he gave me that book, as well as a handwritten note said, I think you ought to read this, and 1 Corinthians 10:13 is something you probably need to know. He didn't know my past, but yet that's pretty much hitting the nail on the head. So at that point, as we come forward 4.5 years later, my wife and I are able to lead different groups. We lead a Two Becoming One class. We grow stronger in Him and each other. We both we both have a servant mentality, and I think when I look back on where I was, and I'm just disgusted, sad, and any word you can come up with, the only thing that gets me out of that is knowing, but where are we now? And we're not divorced. If anything, and my wife will tell you, this is a marriage that we probably couldn't have dreamed of, and it took some major mountains to get there, and there are still going to be speed bumps, but we are heading in a direction that I am just thrilled with, and I know that it's making God smile. So I think, when it comes to Every Man's Battle as the book, one of the taglines under there is everyone's guide to winning the war on sexual temptation, one victory at a time. And, we're talking lust, we're talking pornography, we're talking just the normal sexual immorality that will approach every man in this world, whether you're a Christian or not. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was just going to ask you, the book also talks about, making a plan, and I think that you're probably about to touch on that. And then you said the statement earlier that making God smile, that statement is incorporated as part of the plan, and I wanted you to touch on that a little bit as far as how you incorporate that with your plan to combat the things that are most tempting.
I tell you, the plan is key. I think Pastor Justin was great at his King David and Bathsheba message from the story a couple months ago. He talked about having a plan, and you have to have a plan. You can't just assume that because you know the Word, you will be able to just avoid all temptation. You have to have a plan, and I think my plan starts with making God smile. What am I going to do that's going to glorify God and make Him smile? And all the other pieces of this kind of fall in under that umbrella of what's going to make God smile. I mean, you could do with what would Jesus do? You can go with anything. For me, it's what's going to make God smile. We are surrounded by socially acceptable habits in this world, whether that's improper dress, men gawking, whatever you want to go through the whatever they are, they're socially acceptable. I mean, you can look at anybody you want, you can think whatever you want, and if anything, if you're a guy's guy, if you're having that conversation with other guys, hey, look at her, it's all part of that. Where we have to get out of is eliminating those socially acceptable habits in our lives and replacing those with make God smile habits. And making God smile is not socially acceptable at times. Actually, it's not. It doesn't follow those same habits. You have to go against the grain. You have to be in the minority, and you have to make changes in your life that may actually look strange to others who don't understand what you're trying to do. But when you do it, and you can keep your that plan that you have to put together, man, He's smiling.
Like back what you said about it being socially acceptable. And I've actually heard one of the men describe it as having scales over your eyes. And once you make that commitment to change, the Lord removes those scales. You are privy to, I should say, things that you've come desensitized to. The gawking, the looking, the staring. Gosh, with 50% divorce rate in the church, I just heard that today, Mike.
Really?
Yep, 50% divorce rate. So this is a rampant problem.
I imagine a lot of it stems from that, sure.
If you would, Mike, just talk a little bit about accountability and kind of what you had to do to make yourself accountable.
Well, I think the word accountable is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you're held accountable to God for everything we do. We're going to have a judgment day, and I do not want to stand in front of Him, and I have a visual of the DVR remote in His hand and Him going back and hitting rewind and hitting rewind and hitting rewind and pausing on things and looking at me, and I don't want there to be